To be or not to be, that is the question.
No, it is not to be or not to be the question. It is to stretch or not to stretch. That is the question.
All right, so today we want to talk about, do we stretch or do we not stretch? So I remember back as a student in kinesiology, we talked about this length tension curve and force production for the muscles. But in humans and clinically, we still take a look at that, but we replace length as in range of motion and tension as in strength of the muscles. So we're going to take a look at our baseball pitchers to see who throws a little bit harder. So today's demonstration, Dan brought in his identical twin, Bailey, who both are at the same age, same height, same weight, same throwing mechanics, and we put on different hats just so that you can just identify who's who, okay? So which one throws harder? And before I even start, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick test, and I'll do this with all of my patients, knees, spines, everything else. So as we look at Bailey here, we're going to take a look and see if she has genetic laxity. And see, we take this thumb, take it to her forearm, and we look at her twin, Dan, and we can see that it's a lot less. So let's go ahead. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at their external rotation. So basically we know with the baseball pitcher, they'll obtain about 130 to up to 180 degrees of external rotation when they pitch. So let's just take a look at Bailey. And as I take her into external rotation, I can see I'm taking her back, so she has great range of motion, but her tension is very loose. Where I take over here, and I take Dan, and I take him back, and he's about achieving 90, but I feel a lot of tension, firm end field over here, okay? So now, if I want to increase, they both throw 90 miles an hour, but if I want them to get to throw 94, what I may do is tell Bailey, we don't need to work on your mobility anymore. I just want you to work on strengthening. Let's increase your tension here. This guy, I'm going to take Dan. I want you to really work on your external rotation, really get that back there, okay? And that way you might be able to throw 94 miles an hour. So now we're going to apply this to the knee because we often see this with our ACL patients. With Bailey here, let's take a look at her normal knee. And her normal knee goes to about 15 to 20 degrees. So the question becomes, on her operative knee, what do I do? Am I going to increase that extension to the same so we're symmetrical, or am I just going to keep her just at flat? So if I get Bailey and if I get her to continually stretch into hyperextension, this may not be very advantageous to her. So I'm actually going to tell her, once she maintains this, I just want her to maintain it. She doesn't have to focus on stretching into extension on this with her. So now let's take a look at Dan. Dan, on the other hand, is pretty muscular, but he does have a little flexion contraction. So just on the opposite end with Dan, since he has a little bit of flexion contraction, I do want him to stretch, and this is going to be one of his main focus, especially for his home program. As he stretches, I can see we can get down to zero, so this is something that we're really going to emphasize with Dan. Okay, so why do we want to achieve full extension with ACL? So in terminal stance, or mid to terminal stance, we want her knee to get to 0 degrees, and you can see she's in a little recurvatum. But if we're wanting her to be a sprinting athlete, let's go ahead and we'll get into the triple extension position. Now we have a lot more recurvatum, so if I have her continue to stretch, this angle could actually get even greater. I may want her to just come on in just a little bit, so where we can increase her tension, so I don't want to get her into recurvatum hyperextension on this leg. So just on the opposite, when we look at Dan, Dan has a little bit of flexion in his mid stance to terminal stance, and we want that knee to get to full extension. So that's why with him, we're going to increase stretching of his knee into extension. As we take him into the running position, biomechanically, he's losing just a little bit right here by having his knee bent. We can get greater force production if we get him all the way into like triple extension right in this position. So this is the main reason why we really need to get their knees to get to 0 for Dan. And thank you so much for bringing in your identical twin, Bailey. Bailey, did you enjoy it today?
I did. Thanks for having me.
Great.
As you can see, with this Achilles repair, she has definitely a lot of range of motion. However, you can see she does not have the tension to do a full heel raise.